It took exactly 5 weeks for questions about Ed Orgeron's buyout to begin. That's the kind of season it's been for LSU, which got beat in nearly every area last week in a loss to Troy. Google Troy University, and one of the first 4 suggested questions is, where is the college football team Troy from? Sorry, Neil Brown. You did earn that victory, and Troy is a yearly Sun Belt contender, but just putting LSU's loss into perspective. The Tigers aren't supposed to start 32. They're not supposed to lose to Mississippi State by 30. And they're certainly not supposed to lose to Troy. Prior to this loss, the Tigers were 360 against teams in the Sun Belt. So that leads to the question, where does LSU go from here? First, I'd like to point out any thought of firing Coach O is an unreasonable solution. His buyout is $12 million. Remember, the Tigers are still paying Les Miles, and it's irrational to even think about that number 5 games into Orgeron's tenure. Worth mentioning, though, that LSU athletic director Joe Alleva is already holding meetings with Orgeron and his coordinators to discuss the team's issues and make sure everyone is on the same page. Coaches need more time than that to instill their philosophies and thoughts. Photo Derek E. Hingle, USA Today Sports. The only problem is, Orgeron doesn't really seem to know where his thoughts should be focused. Head coaches have unilateral control over their teams. But Orgeron, a defensive line expert and ace recruiter by trade, seems to have decided his input is necessary on offense. The Tigers shelled out $1.5 million for 3 years to lure offensive coordinator Matt Canada away from Pittsburgh. That contract, according to USA Today's 2016 numbers, makes Canada the highest-paid defensive assistant in the country. Yet, 4 weeks in, Orgeron opted to step in and make changes to LSU's offense. The result: 0 first-half points against Troy. I did step in last week for the first time, Orgeron said this week at his press conference. I wanted to simplify only the shifts in motions. I knew we were going to start 2 freshman linemen, so I wanted the guys to be in place so we knew how to block them. After halftime, the Tigers' offense looked noticeably different. The results were different, too. LSU scored 24 points in the second half and totaled 265 yards compared to 163 in the first. Turns out, Orgeron gave control back to Canada. At halftime he felt like he needed to shift and motion more, which he did, Orgeron said. And that's totally his option. This is totally his offense. A head coach imposing his thoughts on an aspect of the team isn't necessarily wrong. But the whole thing with Orgeron this offseason was he would manage while his 2 high-pay coordinators took care of both sides of the ball. Defensive coordinator Dave Aranda is the highest-paid assistant coach in the country, and together he and Canada make $3.3 million per season. Last year, that combined total would rank 31st among head coaches. Having those 2 was supposed to liberate Orgeron, to keep him from making the mistakes he made at Ole Miss. But instead, he's already overmanaging, pulling a Michael Scott, if you will. Again, that's his right as the head coach. It just doesn't seem like the most advisable path to success. LSU didn't shell out $6.8 million to Orgeron or under Canada, not to mention what it's still paying Miles, for an Orgeron-dictated offense. And those aren't the only issues for the Tigers. They've been hampered by injuries all year. The front 7 is young and the secondary inexperienced, and quarterback remains a major concern. But these should be fixable issues at LSU, which has the number 6 most talented roster per the 247 sports team talent composite. Things aren't getting any easier for the Tigers soon. Florida, Auburn and Alabama are all on the schedule this month, and LSU's exhausted its slate of non-conference games. The only thing left is the slog through the SEC, which includes tough cross-divisional road games with the Gators and Tennessee. The Sky isn't falling in Baton Rouge yet. But, if Orgeron isn't careful, it just might. Coach O is among the nation's top recruiters, and it should come as no surprise that he talked about the importance of reinforcements this week. He wants to sign 2 junior college linemen on both lines to beef up the Tigers in the trenches. But perhaps it's his answer Monday, responding to how LSU could find and attract that many prospects, that best reflects where the Tigers currently are. Hope and pray, Orgeron said. Thank you, guys.